Hi there, my name is Petros, or I go by Ozicon on Discord. I am one of the 40, I believe, mentors on the Bolt Hackathon. Now, why am I making this video? Well, I'm helping people out, so my role is to not participate in the hackathon, but actually help people who are newer to the platform, who need a little assistance with their projects, with some of the rules and some of the clarifications of how to improve and how to build what they need to build. Now, what is the Bolt Hackathon? Well, this is a 1 month, from what I understand, the largest vibe coding hackathon ever. Now, there's 87,521 participants, and it's growing too. So if you haven't already, you can definitely register. I think the end deadline is by the end of this month, but don't quote me. So yeah, so if you haven't already, this is such an amazing opportunity to not only try out vibe coding, but also try out Bolt.new. There's a lot of features for new people who haven't ever coded before to be able to create something and potentially make something that could change their lives. Now, I am a mentor in this event, not because I'm the best technical person, not because I am overzealous in terms of my skills. No, I'm just willing and ready. I've worked with Bolt. I've done a lot of projects with them. I've very much enjoyed vibe coding for the past close to about 8 to 9 months, or seven, quote quote. But yeah, I love vibe coding. I love the ability to utilize these tools to create projects that we need to do. And of course, with this hackathon, there's so much out there. These 87,521 people are competing for a $1 million total pricing. Now, total pricing pool. There's so many sponsors that are involved, so many different, resources. There's just so much out there, and I'm so excited for everyone to participate and find their moment to shine. Now, why am I making this video? Well, I'm noticing a lot of common questions that are asked. Now, a lot of people, of course, are new to Bolt.new and never used it before. Well, if you haven't, you can always try this hackathon.dev to sign up for this hackathon. Now, this is the world's largest hackathon, as mentioned, for non-devs and vibe coders. You have at the end of this month, by the end of this month, to submit. So that's end of June. And if you see here, the kickoff party already happened. The hackathon already started May 30th. The hackathon ends on June 30th. And July 26th is the award ceremony. There's going to be so many people already signed up. There's just so much out there to compete for. And a lot of really awesome collaborations. You're getting free, in the build pack, you're getting a lot of free resources and tools to build as much as you can. Now, if you haven't already, you can definitely sign up on Bolt.new to create an account and then start vibe coding. Now, a lot of people are new to this, so let me walk you through it. The various steps to participate is not only sign up for on Bolt.new on the hackathon, but also every project you want to plan ahead. You want to decide what you're building. This plan ahead with what your website's going to look like, or your app or your application. And then from there, only after you do the planning, go in and paste your prompts and write, here's what we want to build, here's some of the background. As much context as you give these prompt editors, the less struggle you're going to have. I'm seeing a lot of people wasting their tokens because they kind of just jump in, or there's just a lot of hurdle. I would say that Bolt, and this is going to be very, keep in mind, I'm not a Bolt employee. I'm just, here to help people for the hackathons. This is a really important thing to note, because once you have a very clear cut plan for how to approach your project, make it easier for the project also to build accordingly, and also not have too much hallucination. So how do we go about this? Well, you sign up, you create an account, and you type a prompt such as, I want to build a, let's say, a social media site related to pets. Now, of course, this is not what you want to start off with. What I actually do, and this is kind of a little bit some tips, I actually go to ChatGPT and I start planning out some of the ideas that I want to do. Hey, if I'm talking about I want to build this, but here's the approach I want to do. What are some of the language stacks that you think would be best suited for this, and all the above? And then from there, I copy and paste the prompt and then posted it in here. After you create this, it's going to go through the steps of not only building your site, but also walking through oh, here's what we're building. You get a whole preview of what you're building. So you know what? Let's actually just dive through and see how that looks like. Okay, so here, let's see. I want to build a social media site for pet lovers. Let's make it related to not only to not only pet lovers, but pet companies. No, let's make it so pet owners can find and each other while sharing posts about their pets. I want to plan this out for my new project, so please help me plan and build this. So that's a very simple prompt, but it gives ChatGPT at least something to work off of. It gives you like an idea for like how we want to approach this. So here it's giving me an idea. Pod Connect, a user authentication, friend follower system. I like a post system, pet profiles, feed, search and discovery, search by different user pet breeds, hashtags, and more. Let's see, filter by nearby users. That's actually pretty good. Tech stack, Bolt new compatible. So yeah, definitely suggest React, JavaScript is the way to go. I've seen some people have some issues with Next, but don't quote me on that. Supabase is the preferred backend, and then of course you can like add this database schema. Now this is going to help in handy because as we're building, we're going to have an idea of like what type of data to copy. But if you're the first time building, don't worry about it. You can just like get an idea of what you're trying to build in terms of like what we're building in terms of the features, and then copy and paste. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste this. This is a very basic view of how to do this, and I kind of liked what it was offering, and this is a good start. Here's what we would like to build, and then the below is going to add I want to build it, blah, blah, blah. So please unplan this. Here below are more information, including some of data schema you would need. So I essentially used ChatGPT to start the process, and then I copy and paste some of the features that we're expecting. As you can see here, we don't need to mention the stretch goals because these can be added later on, but I can actually keep this in mind for some more advanced features. So when I click this is going to start this implementation. We're asking Bolt to create a lot here. This is like a full-fledged like website that's going to involve a lot of planning and of course like some adjustments, but let's see where it takes us. So here, as you can see, this is the Bolt.new platform. It's going to copy and paste some of the ideas. It's very smart. So it's actually walking you through its plan. Based on the comprehensive plan for Pod Connect, I'll help you build a beautiful production-ready social media platform for pet lovers. And it's talking about the core features, which we shared. So as you can see, because I like planned this out, even like such a little amount, instead of just pasting this, I went ChatGPT and I have like a whole other like next level context for this platform to better utilize, as you can see here. Now it's going through the files, being able to not only update our package.jsons and all these other things, which these are just like parts of the site that are crucial, that are laying out and kind of building out, but you don't have to worry about that. Don't worry about it. This will take care of you. But that's one of the first steps I suggest for when you're initially building on the sites, just to make sure that you have additional context when you're starting the site. Now, why am I sharing this? Well, a lot of people haven't used this before, and I know that a lot of people are comfortable, but you'll be surprised just how easy it is to build on sites like Bolt.new and various other things. So adding this small amount of context is giving us not only a professional layout for design and structure, but also gives us a lot more direction. You know, sometimes when you're building, you're like, oh, I need to add this. Oh, wait, what do I need to add here? This is a good layout to start. And then as you can see, we can actually start adding like more and more advanced features. But I definitely want to walk you through this because a lot of people just haven't used this before. And out of 85,000, I believe 85,400 and 87,501 people, it's crucial that a lot of them know like what are the steps of being able to submit this. Now, some of the questions, and I guess while this is loading, we can actually talk about is how do you utilize, here, let's actually see. So the Bolt Builder Pack is something that you're going to get for signing up through this hackathon. If it has been more than, and of course, keep in mind, this is just from my understanding. I don't work for Bolt. This is just more like, I'm just sharing what I know. I'm not stating it as hard facts, but if this has been more than 2 business days since you sign up on DevPost, which is going to be the hackathon sign up page, please out this form and the team will take care of you. This is going to be hackathon.fillout.com/builderpack. Now, that's just only if you haven't been contacted for more than 2 business days. Don't spam them. Wait the full 2 business days. There's a lot of people signed up for this. And some people run into synchronization issues with GitHub. Of course, GitHub, some of you might know what it is, but it's essentially where our code will live and function. But some more advanced things, we can get into this later in the video. I know that some people don't really know what this is, but it's very simple once you get in track with it. Now, again, there's going to be a lot of resources and tools. A lot of sponsors are providing like so much resources to build this. And there's going to be a lot of tools for you to use for free. A lot of them are giving you like free memberships, free like credits, and all the above. And there's going to be so much information on here. So if you ever have questions regarding the hackathon, you can always go to this link, world's largest hackathon.devpost.com/rules. This will walk you through like not only the time, the registration times, the sponsors, but also some of the rules of like, what are the eligibilities for competing. So for example, you had to be, there's like age restrictions, there's like, how to submit. Now a big thing people ask is, and this is one that I definitely want to clarify, but not paraphrase, just highlight, um, when it comes to how your project is built, if it's like building like purely on bolts or all these things, just remember the rules state that, here, let me actually pull it up this way. We definitely want to make sure that to stay eligible, your project must be primarily built in Bolt.new. The core functionality experience should run with here, let me actually put it this way. To stay eligible, your project must be primarily built in Bolt.new. The core functionality experience should run within Bolt. Look, tools like Figma or ChatGPT are fine for design and idea development, but your actual app needs to live on Bolt. Final submissions may also include the Build by Bolt badge, automatically added when you deploy via Bolt. So essentially, you can use tools, and I don't want to paraphrase this, but your project must be primarily built in Bolt.new. And in regards to the badge, there are some rules for that. So let's see, let me pull this up here. Let's see, badge. We definitely want to make sure that we put this badge for, like, if you're participating in a hackathon, of course, this must be publicly deployed, include a visible Bolt.new badge on the publicly deployed version of your project. This badge confirms your project was built with Bolt.new and also showcases that, you are trying to submit this for this hackathon. It must be mandatory inclusion, visibility very clear, placements on the top right as seen in the above. They recommend putting in the top right, and then sizing must be scalable and responsive to different screen sizes, and must hyperlink to Bolt.new. Yeah. So while that's working, here's our little first preview. Pod Connect, very cute. We have connect with pet parents, share pet moments, discover new friends, join Pop Connect, and sign in. So what do we do here? Well, the first step is, we can add other features to this, but what I like to do is just right away start our integration. So we have our front end site, but for authentication, which is like how do people sign up, sign in, you want to click on the integrations part on the top right of your site, and then click Supabase. Now this is going to connect your backend, and GitHub is going to connect your. It's essentially where a lot of our code will live safely. Now GitHub and Supabase are going to be critical. Later on, we can add Stripe once we want to add like payment integrations. But this is really important to note. Now from here, let's say for example, it talks about what it's created. Here's the structured planning and more. If we want the authentication to work, we definitely need to integrate our Supabase and GitHub. A Supabase for that. But one thing we can also do is, now that we have these features working, we'll have to like test it out and sign in, etc. So if I click this, it's not going to work because we have to connect this to our Supabase. But I mean, I guess I can like, it gives you at least an idea of like what we're trying to build here. So let's say I like this, but I want to add some more features. I love these, but let's add more features. Such as, and for this purposes, I'm going to just put the sign in at the end. Let's let users access our website before logging in or signing up, but to use our site features, they will sign up or sign in. Okay, cool. So one of the things you can also do is you can actually provide screenshots, whether there's errors, whether there's issues, or if you want to adjust the overall designs. Taking screenshots is definitely very helpful. You can copy and paste here. This is what we call an error. Now you're going to run into errors where it has some issues importing or has some issues with some of these things. This is very simply solved within Bolt, and sometimes when people get stuck, I definitely recommend to either screenshot this or copy and paste the code and then put it back into like ChatGPT or another resource to help debug some of the process. Now, we'll wait for this to fully load because it's still loading, so don't freak out yet. If it shows you a bug, it just means there's something like that needs to be fixed, that doesn't mean your website's broken or all that. Also, if it ever does get broken, you have something called a revert button, which is really nice because it goes back to a working version. You just scroll up or scroll down to, oh, hey, I want to go back to this part because I don't like the changes I added here. That's very useful. You can also see your monthly tokens on the top of your chat box here. So that gives you an idea of like where you're at in terms of your total credits, but also you can scroll here from your site, go to settings and see like where you're at for all these other things as well. So yeah, we're gonna let this load. I did ask it to build a lot more difficult features such as location based discovery, which is gonna require a lot more integrations and other things. But it gives us at least an idea for like what route we're going. Now, once you connect to Supabase, this is actually pretty crucial because once you're there, you're gonna have to make sure that you add a lot of features. So let me just go to Supabase to kind of give you an idea of like what that looks like. So once you connect to your Supabase, you're gonna find that project here. And of course, Supabase has, I believe, 2 free projects that you can actually utilize. And then from there, once you have those projects, you're able to like access a huge amount of data for free up to a certain point. So it's definitely good for beginners, especially for Bolt because the integration is so smooth. So once you're on Supabase, this is going to be this is where a lot of beginners might just like feel super intimidated, but don't worry. If you're going to integrate some difficult like APIs, so if I'm trying to use 11 Labs or I'm trying to use a lot of things, there's something called API keys. Now you're going to go to those sites, create a profile, and then use whatever coupon codes you have to access it. Now I know that some people are having a little issues with 11 Lab connecting, so just go to something called this. This might help. 11labs.com/signup ? Coupon equals your. Actually, wait, no, this is not the right one. Let me actually go to the actual correct one. Let's see here. Yeah, this is a better one. Here's the working version. So this will help you with your sign up. 11labs.io/signup/ ? Coupon equals your coupon code. Just replace your coupon code with your actual coupon code. That's a workaround for now while we try to figure out some of the things. But yeah, so you're thinking like, okay, once I'm on those sites, I copy and paste something called an API key. And then you go here, which has edge functions. And this is where you can actually enter your API keys. Now, this is pretty helpful because if you have like secret codes you want to enter, you can just put the key here and then put the value, the API key here. So it's safe and secret. So Supabase is going to not only act as your authentication, it's going to act as your edge function secret. So it's going to protect your secret codes that you don't want to put in the code directly because you don't want people accessing your API key and charging you for all that. So what you do is just enter like, AI Marketplace and then the API key here, and it's going to save here, and that way your website or your Bolt is going to actually understand, oh, when I need to access the secret code of ours, I can use our edge secrets. So that's again on the edge functions under secrets, and then you can just copy and paste your API key and the title of it and save it here. There are other things you can check out like authentication if you want to like sign in users, storage if you want to actually add a lot of things, so you can actually add a lot of files, etc. But that might be a little bit too complicated, so let's just go back to here. So as you can see, I just made the sign up button, not the first step, but a little later. And we have our little cute site here. Connect, fellow pet lovers, start your journey, explore community, and have various other features here. Now, once you build, you want to add more and more features accordingly. And the best way to do it is to test. So I'm going to like click this and it's going to show me some of the things that we have here nearby. Oh, interesting. So it's giving me like a mock view, but of course there's going to be certain features I need to adjust, which is some of these things. Now, when I click this, it's probably going to error. Let's see. Yeah, it's not clicking yet, but essentially what we want to do, especially when you're operating this, is take each step by step and make sure that you keep in mind of your tokens. You want to make sure that you plan each error fixing or everything that you're trying to adjust accordingly every time you do it, because I don't want to just be like, oh, hey, like, I also don't want to like put in my prompt message here like, oh, here's a million things I want you to change at once, because it's definitely not going to work. You want to make sure that when you do these things, you plan accordingly and then also adjust for how you want to make those changes. So the edge functions, definitely, again, important integration. So again, when you create your site, connect to the Supabase, connect to the GitHub, eventually connect to Stripe. But when you're done with this, like let's say you make a lot of these changes and you like test the website, you like it and all the above, you can then go to something called deploy. So once you click deploy, it will actually give you deploy it not only off Netlify here. Let's show this. I'm more than happy to just do it myself. Keep in mind, the site's not ready. This is just like 2 prompts in, and we already have something like that. You want to make sure that you adjust the site and then add it accordingly. And don't forget this little badge for your submission. While this is loading, just remember also for the site, there's actually so many projects. Like you don't, it's not just like the best site. There's like so many other things. So there's grand prize for the best project. Of course, that's what $100,000 in USD, $25,000 in AWS credits, one espresso monitor, and more so. But there's also other prizes. So there's regional prizes, $10,000 in USD, challenge prizes. So there's like different like custom domain challenge winner, blockchain challenge winner. There's so many different like unique pricing for unique categories that it's so worth it. So worth applying if you haven't already. I believe they're still accepting applicants, as you can see here. I've already got 65 new applicants, so definitely a lot of fun. Do you have any questions about particular pricing? So let's, what does the make more money challenge mean? So I click the resources, and then it says, oh, use RevenueCat mobile SDK and RevenueCat paywall builder to acquire subscribers in your mobile Bolt.new app. So yeah, this resource page will help you a lot with this. So world's largest hackathon.devpost.com, and then there's just a lot of resources, and you can actually see like what you're doing and some of the prizes and more so. Also, if you haven't already, you'll want to sign up for the Bolt Hackathon, the Bolt Discord. That has a lot of people not only answering questions, mentors like myself. Again, I'm not the best, I just help out where I can, but also a lot of people who, you know, are also competing in this hackathon that definitely can have questions. But yeah, there's here, let me actually pull this up. So this is the Bolt Hackathon. Now this will help you for some of the questions. If you have a question, you just submit a question here. Can someone help me with this? And then as you can see, we get a lot of people who can like answer accordingly and etc. Now, one of the things that is so helpful about this, you also have some live chats. So you can talk to people who have questions about, you know, oh, here's what I'm building, or, you know, or you can share your progress, or you can actually go to the help, go to other features for questions or answers and more so. So definitely, if you are participating in a hackathon, I recommend going to their Discord and signing up. Of course, for some of these things that you're building. Okay, so there's a lot of tools and resources. So as you can see here, we have our link. So if I click this, I have my Pod Connect. This is a link that I can share with other people. They can access this. And we have this whole like feature already. Now, of course, this website's not ready. It's nowhere near ready, but it looks nice. And the idea is this link will give you the link to deploy it. Now, from there, if you make changes on Bolt, you can always click the deploy again, like to redeploy your changes, because it's not going to automatically make changes and upload it to this site. It's going to be, you have to redeploy those changes. But if you want to claim this Netlify, so if I want to use a custom domain, which of course you don't have to do, you can click here and it'll go through and walk you through the process of not only claiming your thing, but you can like utilize custom URLs and more so. But I definitely recommend, especially for this hackathon project, just keep it to this. Like this might be very helpful, this Netlify, that app. But also make sure that you add the little, like I mentioned, the little badge on the top right, or somewhere on your site that shows that it was made through Bolt, and then you can actually access this file through the shared public drive for their little badge. So yeah, that's like the basics of how to build. Like as you can see, it's actually not that difficult. But if you ever run into trouble, just go on the Discord, ask a mentor a question, hop on a call. People are more than willing to help you out. But yeah, now that we covered some of the basics, I actually want to walk into some of the common questions we see a lot of people run into. So first things first, as you can see, you want to provide context to the Bolt chat window. But also, if I click on this inspector button, if I'm like, oh, I don't like how this is looking, I click this inspector button and I select this and I can change it directly. It gives a little bit more context. Or sometimes what I do is take a screenshot, or I sometimes even, like for me, and this is a little bit more advanced, I screenshot things and then I adjust like on Photoshop what I want to like change design wise. You can integrate a lot of other features. Oh, and the cool thing is you can click this code button and access the code directly here. So this will give you some of the layout of how the site looks like, some of the backend code that you can manually change for some of you more advanced people. You can actually access the terminal here, which is, you know, definitely don't touch this if you're not knowing what you're doing for the terminal. But yeah, this whole process is very easy. I really like Bolt for its simplicity, but also for its ability to like build advanced features, including mobile apps. But definitely, if it's your first time building, just stick to websites. It'll be a lot easier. But yeah, let's look at some of the common questions. Of course, if you are submitting, you know, you're going to get your builder pack. Like I mentioned, definitely reach out to this form, hackathon.fillout.com/builderpack. if you haven't gotten contacted within 2 business days, you're gonna get contacted. There's like 87,000 people there. They're just going through the list. Give them time. Definitely check out their Discord. Some of the other questions I noticed is sync issues. So when I said the integrations with GitHub, it should automatically work, especially if you're building off this site. Some people I think are trying to import projects from other things, or they make changes and they post it somewhere else and then they try to bring it back, and you're going to run into issues that way. You can do the manual terminal. So if I go here and do the npm install, and again, before I continue with that part, just remember, like I said, external tools, be very, 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 very careful, because to be eligible, your project must be primarily built in Bolt.u. The core functionality and experience should run within Bolt. Tools like Figma or ChatGPT are fine for design and ideas development, but your actual app needs to live on Bolt. Final submissions must also include the built on Bolt badge. Highlight at this again, must primarily be built in Bolt.u. Yes, but also double check the rules for everything. Yeah, so let's see. If that method doesn't work in this integration for GitHub, you can always disconnect GitHub, remove the GitHub integration, go to settings, blah, 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 select the menu. If this is for, I guess, for StackBlitz apps, because people try to have issues with that. This is a whole complex thing, and it's already answered in the questions, but one thing I can sometimes do is, if that doesn't work, just duplicate your project. How does that duplication work? I click here, this little 3 buttons, and I click duplicate, which lets me copy this, and I have a different project connected, and then reconnect to GitHub, which will help in handy. There's a whole tokens thing. I know that some people mention it, but it's also not the most important thing. I think a lot of people have a base understanding, but you're going to get a coupon to purchase, but it's definitely it has to be redeemed by June 30th. Some tips. Bolt has a lot of resources for having to prompt how to maximize your token efficiency and like some of the discussion modes. So as you can see here, we can go to discussion mode. So if I want to not just like do direct changes, if I want to like talk to Bolt and get like some background, like, oh, what do we do for this planning? Essentially what I did with ChatGPT, I can just do with Bolt here. Definitely up to you how you want to approach it, but it's all the above is available. So what I do is, the Bolt has a lot of resources, as you can see here. There's discussion modes, there's talking about token efficiency, like how do I maximize my token efficiency, because once you have it, you don't want it to expire, especially for this hackathon. Definitely make sure that you're not stuck on a loop of fixing something. So that's the biggest thing I think a lot of people are not as familiar with, is when it comes to like making fixes, you might like go back and forth with the prompt editor and be like, hey, I need this fixed, and it doesn't. So if it gives me an error, what I do is just copy that error, post it in ChatGPT, kind of brainstorm what it could be, or I can make the changes directly on code. If it's your first time, just, most of the time this thing will actually have an attempt to fix, and if that doesn't work, try giving it more context. So I copy and pasting, share the ChatGPT, and this is just like, of course, from my understanding, and of course from just a personal suggestion. If I run into errors, I just talk it through with ChatGPT, or I could talk it with Bolt. Say, hey, I'm running into this. We're kind of in the loop. It might suggest it might be an issue if you're a Supabase. It might be an issue with some of your edge functions. So what you can do sometimes is, for some of the policies, there's going to be something called some of our like builds and some of these things here. So you definitely want to make sure that you have the right rules and regulations. So there's going to give you some SQL to adjust for your backend, like, oh, how do I approach deleting files? How do I approach all the above? This is where the SQL editor will come in handy. And of course, that might be a little complex for you. Just know, if you run into errors, try the attempt to fix. But if it doesn't work, you can try ChatGPT or these other platforms to kind of brainstorm and discuss. And remember, Supabase is one of those platforms where, while Bolt can revert, Supabase cannot revert. So if you're making changes to any of your like SQL policies, which are some of your backend rules, copy and paste it before you like make these changes. If you have a working site and you're adding a feature and you're like, oh, let's edit this, copy and paste it before. I put it in like a Word document sometimes. And of course, this might not be the best tool for like, it might not be the best advice, because some people are like, oh, won't run into that issue. But for me, I always try to play it safe. Okay, let's look at some of the other questions that I've seen. Some of the coupon codes, definitely just make sure that you access your Bolt builder. Syncing issues, like we mentioned, that you can like manually npm install, but also try duplicating if none of that works, or try like hard refreshing, removing caching, etc. But I like the duplicate option. Just reminder, if you duplicate your project, you're gonna have to resync it to GitHub, which is why it helps. I'm just going through some of the issues that like people find. Of course, you can work as a team. I think when you submit your project, you just have to add them as a team member. Remember, it's not just building the project, you actually have to submit this to the hackathon. So the hackathon will have like, a project that you submit on dev post. So it will navigate you through. You're going to have to like create this and then submit an application through there. But I believe I have some of this here. Let me see. Team. Let's see. Other tips and questions. Let's see here. Yeah, definitely. There's like tools like this. So if people are trying to build backend, there's Bolt has a lot of videos that cover this. But essentially, just the Supabase thing that I talked about. And of course, definitely check out the resources that you can to better understand some of those things. Yeah, okay, so I talked a lot about these things. I guess I want to make sure, when it comes to bug handling, like error handling, just make sure that you give context, you copy and paste, you inspect the specific thing that you want to change. Keep in mind of your monthly tokens because you definitely want to submit something before you run out of tokens. And check out the Discord. That's like a huge thing that you can do for yourself. Of course, with some of these things, we have just a lot of tools and resources from the Bolt and from all these sponsors to be able to access. So that's my initial build. I will maybe dive in deeper to Supabase or maybe dive into some of these other things, but I hope this gives you at least a start for how to approach this and then gives you a little bit of like, oh, okay, here's some context of how to build. But again, if you haven't already, definitely check out this Bolt Hackathon. I'm so excited. For me, I use a lot of platforms, and I think any platform that goes out of the way to put $1 million in prize pool for vibe coders is just paving the way. So definitely this should open a lot of doors. It seems from once I started the video, we already have 87,549 participants. So yeah, definitely register this hackathon.dev. You can follow me on Petros Hong on X or on like various platforms. If you are interested, definitely find me on LinkedIn or X. My YouTube is AussieCon. So yeah. Oh, recently I got like first for Link Up, second for N8N, and fifth for Minimax at the AWS Hackathon, which is super fun. So yeah, you can find me on X, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Discord. My YouTube is AussieCon, OZYCON, so definitely check that out too. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I kind of like went on a tangent, but I'll definitely make sure to provide additional context and more general tips and tricks if you're submitting for the first time. But yeah, definitely excited. Hope you enjoyed this video and catch you guys next time.